So, this is the chat regarding where the club is at and where it is likely to be planning on going from here. So, if we look at this one,
Sorry?
we're all good.
We're
It's
good.
fine.
Oh,
So,
okay.
where is the Wind and Wave Club at in terms of things like membership and experience available? How is it affiliated to its host club? These are the kind of things all build together to create an overall picture of where the club is. And don't forget to add in where the money is in this particular part of the development plan.
Money's all in America.
Yeah, the money is gone. So, do you cover it all?
Membership's up.
So, absolute numbers.
Okay, shall we start again? So, speaking of end of last semester, we were at 20 members. In terms of this year, we're already at 21, and we've still got several people to re-sign up because organisation.
Yep. Gender breakdowns, anything like that?
Gender breakdown, okay. We'll just fast forward this bit in the edit.
Yeah.
So, do you want now or last semester?
Both.
Okay,
It kind
so
of
last
gives you
semester,
a
1,
trend
2, 3,
where the club is
4,
going.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So last semester, 9 male, and therefore we had 20 members, therefore 11 female.
So that's 55% female.
Yep.
1, 2,
Well done, you can do maths.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so far for this year, out of 21, we are 15 female, and therefore 6 male.
Damn, I can't do maths in my head. What's that maths?
15.
70.
Do you want which one do you want female? 71.4. Sorry.
71.4.
You're 0.1 away from being right. So 71%. However,
And this
is a bit you can edit out. I feel like that might be more indicative. That's indicative of two things, I think, at the moment.
Who signs up early?
Who's actually been organised and re-signed up. I think of the female members last year, more of them have re-signed up, and that is not to do with us losing the male members, although we have lost a few male members to graduation. So,
Cool.
I think there's two reasons for that. Firstly, yeah, of the people who were members last year and are still here, I think the women have been more organised on average than the men. But I think also the new people who signed up have been pretty heavily female.
There's also a big skew in the first years this year.
I was about to say, I think
that's also
my
going
impression
to-
so far of all the freshers we spoke to at the Freshers' Fair and at the trial event was there was a massive skew.
It's about 65%.
So I think, yeah, so I think we're not. I think we have done better at signing up women than men thus far from the percentages of what are in there, but I don't think it's as
Based
far
on your
skewed as it
very
looks.
little students as well.
Yeah, we're not as far off our sample population as we might be.
Fantastic. So, just in terms of absolute members, and this has stayed relatively stable. It's starting to kind of go upwards. So this is definitely a kind of, I might almost suggest it might be an opportunity. So membership is generally increasing. It tends to be slightly more female versus male. These are all kind of things which end up in the kind of picture of where the club is at.
One interesting thing with that, however, is that when you look at the instructors in the club and the people that we've captured who are already sailors, that is more like 50-50 or male heavy.
That's rather conveniently the next thing to do.
I'd also say that the people who are interested or at a standard to race are probably 50-50 as well.
And I think that's more to do with the sailors who come to SAMS than our recruitment. I think there's also a strong element here of the fact we're recruiting from a very small population.
Yeah.
So just 2 or 3 people either way
Yeah.
is making a
Skews
huge
the
skew.
data,
So I don't
I
think we can really, any of these things we just said, I don't think we can really look too
So at the
closely into.
moment we got 2 dinghy instructors,
Yeah, so this is also useful information.
right?
No, if you
2
include,
Sorry.
DIs.
if you include Yana
Do you
and
want to just
Jolly,
look at
Yeah.
all written down?
The advantage is that UHI tracks all this information.
So at the moment
so
we
you
have.
already know a lot of this data.
It gets a bit complicated because we have assistant instructors. We also have
Assistant, add it, everything.
we also
all
have
experienced
instructors
people.
who are not UK qualified.
Doesn't
a
matter.
new one for us as well.
Stick them under
And the
AI.
fact that our instructors have been exceptionally poor at filling in the form for the new semester. As in, we have 4 instructors according to this semester's form. Maybe
Where
this
were we
shows that
where
experienced
were we
people are
last
harder
year?
to get to do paperwork.
Where were we last year?
Where were we last year? Let me just spin across to column X for last year. So last year we were sat at 2 senior instructors and 4 dinghy instructors and 2 assistant instructors. Although one of them forgot they were an assistant instructor when they filled in the form, showing that we cannot take this as gospel.
So generally, there is a pool of experience to draw from.
Yes.
But recruiting, what does recruitment of qualified instructors and training of AIs look like in UHI?
Wait.
Do people turn up with minimal sailing experience and end as SI, or does this tend to be a relatively stationary?
People generally
progression
move
pathway?
on roughly 1 stage, if you count it stages.
Yeah.
Or
So-
maybe 2 stages, I would say. If you count as people move on 1 or 2 generally. If you count it as inexperienced, like non-sailor or inexperienced, experienced, assistant instructor, DI, SI. If you count that as sort of the ladder.
That'd be
Most people move on
a
1 or
reasonable
2
opinion.
steps during their time at uni.
if you want
So it
to,
tends to be that if you're training any instructors, they will be AIs.
Because we physically
Whereas-
cannot. There's no
Yeah.
dinghy or senior instructor training within a 2-hour drive of Oban.
Which is-
Challenging that somewhat. We have had a couple of people trained to that level, but we've trained them by sending them away, and that I don't think we can claim entire credit for, because that's been very much strongly through partnershiping with Oban for that.
But that will come into the opportunities later.
Yes.
if you consider it in terms of a racing level, we do get quite a few people who come from no experience, and at the end of their 3-4 years, however long they're here, up to a racing level though.
Yes,
So
in
if
terms
you
of people's
consider it-
actual sailing experience, I think people improve a lot. In terms of people's paper qualifications,
They don't necessarily.
There
we
are
can't
people-
prove so much because we're not able to send people away for the more advanced stuff, and we don't do so much paper.
Okay. And in terms of recruiting instructors and senior instructors, particularly, 1 a year seem like a reasonable average? More, less?
Senior instructor less.
Senior instructor less, yeah, you're right. Senior instructor we've had 2 in the entire time the club has existed.
I mean,
And
that's
they're
4
both sat
years.
at this
That's
table.
technically half a year currently.
Yeah, but both of them joined in the very, very start of the club and have not left yet.
Whereas
Um,
DI recruitment.
DI recruitment is a lot healthier if you count DI or equivalent level. However, it fluctuates massively year to year. So last year we recruited nobody who had a single bit of qualification to do anything, other than one person who'd driven a powerboat a bit, and that was towards the end of the year. So we've not. Last year we didn't actually have. So this was definitely a threat if we're going to go into our
Yeah.
SWAT stuff. Last year we did not recruit anyone. Last year we had a very much a lull in recruitment for various reasons. But as part of that, we did not recruit anyone who was significantly experienced or who had any qualifications and then helped out with the running of the club within their first year. Not necessarily a problem overall, but last year that was a definite issue. And if we'd had that again this year, that would have been a serious issue, because at that point all of our qualified instructors would have been in the last 2 years of uni or postgraduates. Now, however, this year we've had a boom the other way, and although they're not all represented yet on the membership forum, we have had involved and interested already
Two powerboats.
two powerboat drivers
and
and two dinghy instructor or dinghy instructor level. So that kind of makes up for last year.
So it does
Um,
average out eventually, but it's getting
It's out to about 3 a year.
Yeah.
3 experienced people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Probably more than that experienced sailors.
Yeah, I'm talking
But-
about people
but
with
People
Yeah.
with some sort of paper qualification to help us, yeah, probably 3 or so a year.
So in terms, okay, so there's a level of recruitment of experienced people, which we can work with. This is neither good nor bad, it just is. So in terms of facilities, equipment, this is the bit where it potentially is going to get a little bit complicated for the tape, because it ties in also with who do you work with.
Yeah, so we have
Um,
not so much.
but in
of that.
terms of absolute numbers of kit, what kit have you got?
7 fireflies, all with
6.5.
7 technically,
Depends which bit the firefly you count in.
and if it's got a hole in it or not.
Oh, well.
We also have stand-up windsurfboards. What else?
Four
Okay, they're
body
wind
boards.
subs.
Four
Yep.
bodyboards.
4 bodyboards, a couple of surfboards.
4 surfboards.
4 surfboards. Recently put in an order for new club ret suits, gloves and boots. Also got access or own trailers.
And then two double stacking trailers. We also own a load of miscellaneous gear to go on those trailers or so on for surfing trips and the like.
Also
we have bits and bobs for that.
applying as part of our money application this year for our start of year startup fund for £500 to put towards club maintenance kit. So getting things like fiberglass and so on to keep boards, boats, people all in check.
Fiberglass people together.
That would hurt. So
Yeah,
the club
from
actually
experience.
relative. Yes. bitter experience. So the club actually, relative to the size of the club, has a huge amount of kit.
Especially when we consider that stuff Wind and Wave Club own.
Absolutely.
I-
own.
Well, own ourselves or own when you include loaned. So we have some of that is essentially against a mortgage for the club, to all intents and purposes.
Yep.
We don't outright own all the Fireflies yet. But all the rest of the stuff we outright own. The Fireflies are ours, even if some of them are actually guaranteed against a loan for the purchase of them.
Yeah.
We also have access to, through
Do you mind if we come on to
affiliation.
that in a
Sorry,
minute?
yep.
Yeah. And we'll have a look at that in terms of the partnership agreements and stuff. The membership survey, you've generally reported that the kit is in good condition.
Yep.
It came
Yep.
in from memory at an 8 on that particular scale.
out of
10.
on average. Some of it's brand new, not touched.
Yeah.
Some of it's
A bit older.
eclectic.
And so from that kind of builds into then the financial situation of the club, which would be really useful if we had the treasurer here, but unfortunately she's in Carolina currently. But in terms of the club finances, this is probably actually the thing that I am going to have to talk about. That's unless you guys happen to have a copy of the accounts. I think the thing to bear in mind with UHI's finances as the former Commodore is that classically the funding from the union particularly has been going downwards. So it started out as very healthy for a very new club and has since taken a downwards trajectory, unfortunately rapidly, as the club has expanded. But the sources of different mechanisms of income for UHI has diversified massively. So the financial situation currently is relatively healthy based on the fact that it can gain income from a number of different sources, including membership. It's gained money from hosting events, running training, and the affiliation agreement, which we'll come on to in a few minutes. So finances is not just how much money you have in a university bank account, it's how much that these guys managed to save,
Your actual
it's
bank.
how they've managed to save it, and how they've managed to mitigate some of the costs by putting it into buying equipment and getting grants from new equipment particularly.
Also racing and so on. Gaining grants for that.
Yes,
Okay.
and taking advantage of particularly participation grants from the union to allow sailors to get to SSS and booster run events.
The other joyous thing with our accounts is the fact that HISA the union wipe everything that is in our union held funds at the end of the academic year. So we have to spend all that somehow, and have any money that we wish to keep year on year into a normal bank account.
Which is a particular idiosyncrasy of this particular student union. Other universities will have different mechanisms of doing things, such as people with large sets of alumni donations, which may be held in a separate bank account entirely and be untouchable for various sailors. Because actually, your financial situation, the absolute numbers change day on day, year on year.
Oh, very good.
And so finally, coming on to partnerships, who you work with, who you might want to work with in the future, where you potentially work together in a beneficial manner to do something which is good for the club, the region, the world.
Hugo Boss, please, can we have a shot of the new boat?
I mean, Christ, wouldn't we all like that?
Or even the old one, actually, I'm not fussy. I would accept the previous Hugo Boss if they're not willing to loan us the new one. I'd accept that.
On a serious note,
Yeah.
we have a partnership agreement with our host club Oban, where we, as members of UHI, become members of Oban and get access to all their stuff, and as Oban members they get access to all our stuff, and then through them we're also teamed up with the local sea cadets and have access to their boats and activities just like they do to us, and we just have a very open agreement between the three of anyone can use anything as long on the basis that if you break it you replace it or repair it.
It's not even on that basis, actually. It's all
No.
insured
Yeah.
by the owners.
And as well, there's more to that particular affiliation agreement, set of affiliation agreements, in that everyone works together for the common goal of getting more people sailing, keeping more people sailing, which is relatively unusual for a university club to have quite such an explicit partnership agreement with the host club. So, for example, these guys provide instructors for their Open Sailing Club summer courses, and Jamie is extensively involved in running the Open Sailing Club Monday evening kids sessions. So again, there are potential.
As a lawyer,
Always
she's even
always
advertising it.
Yeah. So again, there's things to consider is potentially where you can start to look at taking.
It's definitely, going back to the SWAT thing again, it's definitely one of the strengths that we have. It gives us access to a huge amount of stuff that's going on during the summer when we are doing bugger all as a club. There's tons of training goes on. Quite a lot of it actually ends up being run by Wind and Wave Club instructors, but also run by people who are not related to Wind and Wave Club directly. It's how we offer all of our ROA training, how we get people ROA Powerboat Level 2s, and assistant instructors, and all that is all through Open Sailing Club. And vice versa, they get us running stuff for them, so it works well like that. It also gives us access to a huge variety of boats for our training. So it gives us access to 2 ribs, a Laser Bahia, soon to be 3 RS Quests through the Sea Cadets,
Toppers.
6 or 7 toppers, 6 picos, and not so relevant for Wind and Wave Club at the moment, but for this season, 6 oppies.
And fevers.
And yes, through the high school, one we missed from the earlier list, through Oban High School owns 6 Fevers, of which there are at the moment 2 available to us. So it gives us a huge range of boats to play with, way beyond what we could ever use in one go. But it gives us a good flexibility with what to do, which makes up for the fact that the location in Oban can require some creativity in terms of keeping sailing into the winter.
Fantastic. So that, in terms of just the absolute where the club is at right this very second, we'll now move on to looking at that in terms of SWOT analysis. And from there, we'll work out where the club wants to be, what it wants to do, and how it wants to get there.